In our last episode, we buttoned up things in the Mojave for the Legion. Now the Legion is poised better than ever to have victory at the second battle for Hoover Dam. After we assassinated President Aaron Kimball, we head back to the fort to learn of our next task. If Caesar is dead, we report in with Lucius, but he has the same thing to say as Caesar does if he's alive. If Caesar is alive, but we failed at Hoover Dam, and Aaron Kimball yet lives...
President Kimball was there on the dam right before you, and yet he lives. How did you fuck this up?
I changed my mind.
Mark my words, you piece of shit. This is the last time you will ever refuse to perform an order I've given you.
But despite this angry response, he still gives us our next mission. Or we can say, I apologize for my failure, mighty Caesar. It will not happen again.
That's right. Under normal circumstances, the reason it wouldn't happen again is that you'd be crucified, or worse. Only in light of the extraordinary service you've rendered unto me am I going to overlook this failure. Bear in mind how much you have to make up for, how much you have to prove yourself in your next task.
In which case he also gives us our next task. But if we were successful, things are very different.
You dispatched President Kimball with real skill. Right under their noses, too. What a humiliation. My forces are in a position to assault the dam. Legatus Linnaeus has assumed command. Are you ready to go to him? To tell him to begin the assault?
This is our last chance to do anything else in the Mojave before the second battle of Hoover Dam. There's no going back from this. If we fail, we die. If we succeed, we meet the end of the game. So when we're sure we're ready, we can say it will be an honor to fight for the Legion.
Good. In hoc signo torus vinces. Report to Legatus Linnaeus immediately. He'll brief you on the plan of battle. Come back victorious. Or don't come back.
The Latin he spoke there, in hoc signo taurus vinces, roughly translated means, in this sign of the bull, you will conquer. This is a reference to a famous phrase found in a book, De Morbitus Persecutorum, by Christian author Lucius Caecilius Firmianius Lactantius. The author Lucius was also an advisor to the first Christian Roman emperor, Constantine. In his book, Lucius recounts a story explaining Emperor Constantine's dramatic conversion to Christianity. One day, while Constantine was marching with his army, he looked up at the sun, whereupon he saw the symbol of a cross drawn with light above the sun. And with this symbol were the Greek words, en tuto nika, translated, in this, conquer. The phrase is often translated into Latin in hoc signo vinces, or in this sign or symbol you will conquer. In the story, the sign is the Christian cross. Constantine was the first Christian Roman emperor, and he made Christianity the official religion of Rome. The significance of Caesar using this reference here is obvious. In place of the Christian cross, Caesar specified taurus, the sign of the bull. Here again, we find evidence that Caesar views what he's doing almost as a righteous obligation. In any event, we arrive at the legate's camp, and if we played any of the other game endings, we immediately recognize this scene. This is the final setting for those endings, where we confront Legate Lannius, but in the Legion ending, this is where we begin, for here we meet up with Lannius first, before moving upon the dam. We also find the legate's camp in a flutter of activity, unlike with the other endings. Here we find soldiers working out, practicing their martial arts, and sharpening their blades. When ready, we scale the hill, and this time we can enter the legate's tent at the top of the camp.
Legatus, a stranger arrives, one who bears the mark.
Finally, Mars has accepted my sacrifices and unleashes me. You are the courier Lord Caesar has spoken of. The slaughter begins then.
You mean your army is about to attack?
My army has been ready for some time now. My orders were to await the coming of a messenger. You are messenger and message both, it would seem.
You must be the legate then, I'm guessing.
I am the commander of this army. The son of Mars has granted me the name Linnaeus, and the time to serve him has come once more.
The son of Mars? Mars was the Roman god of war. The son of Mars must be Caesar. Well, about time, Lennius. I was starting to get bored with all this waiting around.
As was I. Yet I was ordered to await you. Now that you are here, we may act.
Lennius has the same response to all three of these options. So we'll say, I hope the NCR's a lot less entrenched than they seem.
In the past, the NCR has relied upon attrition, withering our numbers with ranged fire and falling back as necessary. Not this time. The dam contains tunnels to its heart, overlooked by the NCR, now occupied by the Legion. When the battle begins, the NCR will find our teeth at their throats in a dozen places. There will be no attrition, no falling back, only carnage.
And he has the same response to these three options. So we'll say, and what do you want me to do?
Our forces are better equipped to take objectives than hold them. I do not wish to defend this place if another option exists. Our opponents follow a strict chain of command, which is both a strength and weakness. I intend to use you to strike at that weakness. Find the enemy commander, this General Oliver. Kill him or his resolve. Do this and his cowards will retreat, leaving the dam to us.
I have questions first.
Then ask them. The battle draws near.
What does Lennius mean?
The word means butcher in Latin. I was granted the name after proving myself in several battles. Perhaps after today's battle, you too will earn yourself a new name.
Are you looking forward to the battle?
I live to serve Caesar's will and the will of the Legion. If my victory serves them both, then I am pleased.
What do you think of the NCR?
They are passable foes. Like their citizens, they prefer their war from a distance, and at that, they excel. Their leaders have on occasion shown brilliance. Their rangers in particular have adapted well to our strategies. But their rangers are few, and this General Oliver we face is not their best. I regret not being able to face Hanlon, the one who led them last time.
Any idea what our chances are?
Their men take comfort in and rely on killing at a distance. They will not have the luxury of such comforts this time. Our warriors will wash over them in a tide of blood, severing arms before they can attack, legs before they can run, and heads before they can pray. So yes, fortune favors our chances, messenger, provided you move quickly.
What can you tell me about the layout of the dam?
It was not intended for war. Its top sides are bound to two intake towers by a series of bridges. No doubt snipers nest there. On the far side of the dam, a small building provides access to the power plant below. That is where Oliver hides.
So we can expect snipers on the intake towers, and the small building he mentioned here must be the visitor center. From there, we can access the power plant where General Oliver is hiding. He has the same response to both of these options. I'll go pay General Oliver a visit.
Mars's eyes are upon you. Do not fail him, or me.
Lennius here appears to genuinely believe in Mars, an ancient Roman god of war. After this moment, he walks away, and we are pushed outside of his tent. If we try to go back in, we see a message, but the guards inside block the entrance of the tent. Apparently, the legate doesn't wish to speak again until your mission is accomplished. But our view from the inside of the tent was really short. We had precious few moments where our screen wasn't locked to Lennius's face. I wanted to show what was really going on here, so toggling the free cam, we can explore what Lennius was doing here. When we first entered, he had just slaughtered an NCR soldier. We find his beheaded corpse lying on a table. The first thing he said when we entered was that Mars had listened to his sacrifices. So we get every indication that Lennius had sacrificed this NCR soldier to the god Mars to gain better fortune in battle. And this is corroborated by 4 other bodies lying amongst their own blood on the ground before the table. Lennius has been murdering and sacrificing NCR and settlers to his god Mars. We see a collection of machetes and hammers, instruments used to maim and torture, on a table nearby. We see that he's eating well. The strategy table in the middle of the tent is filled with red meat. I don't think he's a cannibal. This doesn't look like human meat. Instead, it looks like Brahmin steak. On a board behind his strategy table, we see a map of Hoover Dam with a bloodied handprint on it and a knife sticking into it. And over in the corner, we see a still living but bound female slave. After everything we've heard about Lanius's reputation with women, in particular from the slave Siri, I think it's obvious what Lanius was saving this slave for. But we don't have time to dwell on it. For now, we have a task. Heading back down the hillside, we see that the legionaries have left the training grounds. We can take the opportunity to loot the small camp. There are footlockers at the base of nearly every sleeping bag, and I don't know if it was because of my character's level, but I didn't find any useful ammunition, just a bunch of shotgun shells and 9mm ammunition. We find some Praetorians cooking up some Brahmin meat to the west. We can grab a few steaks here if we want, and that's about it. After looting a few more minor containers, we can cross the drawbridge out of the camp to the west. Here we find the legionaries arrayed before us, waiting for us, and as soon as they see us, they charge up the hillside to the southwest and down the road to cross the gate to Hoover Dam. On the other side, we follow the road around a rock, and it was at this time that I realized that the sun was setting. I tried to wait until morning, but sadly, with this event triggered, we can't wait any longer, so I'm stuck doing this during the night. We see our fellow legionaries have already engaged in battle on the other side of the road. So following the road to the top of Hoover Dam, we can support them. I tried to use these throwing spears. This is the first time I've used throwing spears. Trying to channel my inner legionary, and yeah, I'm not a big fan. So I quickly switched to my pistol and sniper rifle. The NCR have erected sandbag barricades all across the top of Hoover Dam. As we fight our way along, we pass a couple of towers to the left and intake towers to the right. But before we explore those, we'll finish clearing the NCR atop the dam. We see that some sort of barricade has been erected in the middle of the dam, which is preventing the NCR from reinforcing the eastern side. So thankfully, after killing these troopers, we get a bit of a rest. Shortly thereafter, however, we see that the boomers, whom we allied with earlier, have arrived in their bomber, and they dutifully start bombing the western side of the bridge, much to the pleasure of the cheering legionaries. As the plane flies away, we can try to explore what's here. Opening the door to the nearest Hoover Dam tower, we arrive on the lobby level and we see that the elevator is shut off. This typically would allow us access to the interior of the dam, making it easier for us to fight our way to General Oliver's compound, but for some reason this elevator is deactivated. Going upstairs, we find a big open bathroom. The only good loot we find here is one first aid kit on the wall. Here, however, we do find a ladder leading to the roof. The roof is a square platform that gives us a great view of the eastern side of the dam. Peering over to the western side, we see burning fires from the boomers bombing, but we don't see any NCR we can shoot. So we do have to cross through this checkpoint in the middle of the dam before we can attack any more NCR. Heading down the watchtower, we can move southeast, and here we find one of two bridges leading to the intake towers. Now remember, Lanius told us that it was here where the NCR was likely to field snipers. We don't find any near these intake towers, but perhaps they will be on the others. He also told us that the Legion had discovered tunnels into the dam. These are likely going to come out near or inside the intake towers. Heading into Tower 03, we arrive in a small circular room. We can peer through the floor and we see water beneath us. There's an AB switch on the wall, but we can't interact with it. This must not be the one, so heading out, we can turn around and move towards intake tower number 4. Entering Tower 4, we see a hatch on the ground here, but we can't access it. There's an AB switch on the wall, but we can't interact with it either. Neither of these are the ones we want. This leaves only one path forward, and that's to move west across the top of the dam through to the checkpoint. Inside the checkpoint, we see that the Legion has already occupied it. We find a veteran Decanus near the western door.
Salway, courier. How goes the battle in the east?
We have two options. We can say, there's still some fighting back there.
And yet you managed to slip past. Impressive. You may not find the fighting to the west quite so easy to get around, however.
Or that the area is secure.
Good news indeed. If only the same could be said for the west.
How did you get ahead of me?
My contubernarium came up through one of the intake towers ahead and headed east, taking the NCR fools unawares from behind. Their confusion allowed us to slaughter them like Brahmin calves. Unfortunately, my brothers heading west did not fare as well. The enemy is much more fortified ahead, and have snipers set up at key positions, which keep our men pinned down. In addition, they've managed to beat back our men emerging from the intake tower ahead and secure it. If we could just get rid of those damn snipers, or release our waiting men in the intake tower, we'd have the manpower to storm their positions.
I'll see what I can do.
Any assistance you can provide is welcome, and will mean more of our men to carve through the foe by your side.
I'll make it across somehow.
Then I wish you luck, and good hunting.
Just make sure your men don't get in my way.
Mars favors the bold, does he not?
Despite the plethora of containers here, few of them have any worthwhile goods. I found some ammunition in only one locker. However, in the northeastern corner of this shack, we find a ladder leading up to the roof. On top of the checkpoint, we should have a great 360-degree view of the dam. However, our view west is mostly blocked by the checkpoint. The roof in the middle bulges up, making this an ineffective sniper's roost. However, turning around and looking east, our path is completely clear. But we already cleared the east, so this is not really useful. Looking west, I wanted to see if I could take out some of the snipers that the Decanus was talking about, but I didn't see any on the towers or any on the intake towers, so I'm not exactly sure what we can even do here. Heading back down the hatch, when we're ready, we can move through the checkpoint and open the door to the western part of the dam. Here we walk through the smoldering embers of the boomers' bombing towards the west. The legionaries continued to march across the dam, but I decided to open the door to one of these nearby towers and scale it. Like the last one, the elevator is locked down, but we can access the ladder to the top. At the top, we see that the ranger sniper is already dead. Despite not having any snipers, the Legion did a good job of taking this guy out. Pulling out my sniper rifle, this is an excellent perch to take out the ranger on the westernmost tower. I looked around for any other enemies to fight and I just couldn't find any. So heading back down to the ground, we can continue west across the dam. As we reach the path to the next series of intake towers, we come under fire from NCR snipers. Just as the legate warned us, I appear to be the only sniper in this group, so while the Legion raced forward, I did my best to take them out from distance. And here we begin to see the effects of the howitzer we repaired. Remember, Lucius had us go to the boomers' camp to find spare parts to repair the Legion's howitzer. We see it raining down fire from the Legion's eastern camp upon the NCR. While the legionaries continued west across the bridge, we can explore these two intake towers. Remember, one of them is supposed to have tunnels filled with our legionaries. After looting the rangers, we can move all the way to intake tower 2. We find an interior identical to the others. The only difference is this one has a locker. And at last, we finally get a decent stash of ammunition. Almost 100 .308 rounds and almost 100 12.7mm rounds, with quite a stash of frag grenades. But that's it for this intake tower. So moving back south, we can round and enter intake tower number 1. Unlike the others, this one has a terminal. Activating the terminal, we find a message. Hoover Dam Maintenance System. Warning, intake tower maintenance should only be performed during scheduled periods of inactivity, and then only with the proper equipment. See your supervisor for more details. We find one option to unlock the maintenance hatch, and as soon as we do...
Ah, the outsider who gained our master's favor. You prove yourself as cunning as the rumors report.
He has the same response to these first two options. Report, Centurion. What are your standing orders?
My men await in the tunnel below. I'm to divide them between the dam top and the tunnels that lead to the western power plant.
What news of the battle below?
The fighting in the power plant is the fiercest as expected, but the dogs have been caught off guard, and their positions can expect no support. However, the pipes below have been sealed, cutting off our men until the dam top can be secured. I've been diverting half of my men to the tower next to this one. It's a bit of a swim, but the enemy hasn't sealed those pipes yet. Some of the other Centuriae are more stubborn in following their orders exactly, though, and wait in the pipes below. If you should make it down there, unsealing the pipes again will allow us to spill over the enemy like a tide of blood.
At this point, we can make one of two options. We can pass a 60 speech check to say, it is imperative we secure the dam top. Instead of dividing your men, focus their attack here.
Your words have merit. Very well. I shall tell my men to concentrate their efforts here.
With that, legionary after legionary emerge from the tunnel and out the door to raid the top of Hoover Dam.
Alive! There's still more killing to be done. Keep moving! Move it, you curs!
If we choose this option, we see a new glut of Legion troops scurrying across the dam's surface, amidst howitzer fire from the fort. Alternatively, we can pass a much harder 80 speech check to say the power plant is what really matters. Have all your men attack there. I'll finish things here.
Agreed. If we take the power plant, this battle is over. I'll have my men focus their efforts there. May the Son of Mars go with you.
I have to keep moving. Kill a few of them for me.
More than a few if I have my way.
With that, the Centurion goes back down the hatch to the tunnels below, but sadly we can't follow him. We don't know exactly what these tunnels look like. This time, of course, when we leave the intake tower, we are not accompanied by a bunch of legionaries, so this is the best option if we feel like we can handle things up here, but that we might need more help once we delve into the bowels of the dam. With that, we've completed both optional objectives. We defeated the ranger snipers at the intake tower, and we met with the legionaries inside. Continuing west across the dam, we can provide sniper support for our melee-only legionaries. When we get close to the final dam tower, we can enter it and scale it to the roof. On the roof, I plan to take out more of the troopers, but it seems like they're all dead. The howitzer is really tearing this place apart. The road to the west is on fire. The vertibird landing pad on the visitor center is on fire. The legionaries have a clear path west across the bridge and don't find any opposition. I was honestly a little disappointed. But anyway, back down on the dam we can loot the corpses and move west. As we move, however, a bunch of rangers suddenly spawn on top of us. Thankfully, we are accompanied by great Khans. Remember, unless we intervene on the NCR's behalf, Papa Khan allies with Caesar's Legion out of his hatred for the NCR.
Greetings, courier. We caught word the battle was about to begin. We arrived before the road was closed off. Our warriors are here to assist you.
And with that, our combined forces make quick work of the NCR atop Hoover Dam. We have a couple of options. We notice that the ladder to the vertibird landing pad is deactivated, so we can't climb up there. We can, however, open the top-level door to the visitor center. However, I found this to be extremely challenging. There is one T-45 power armor wearing heavy trooper up top, and even when I pulled out my thump, the troopers that came up the stairs behind me inevitably killed me. So instead of going through here, we can head down the road and open the main door to the visitor center. I found this to be much easier because the NCR heavy troopers tended to stay on one side of these desks. I could always skirt around these circular desks to keep them at arm's length. I was then able to make short work of them with my thump. I thought it strange that none of the legionaries outside followed me inside the visitor center. To move on, we can take either the elevator or the stairs leading down to the Hoover Dam Power Plant number 1. Now this plant is sprawling. There are so many wings of it that were built for different quests. It's easy to lose our sense of direction, get lost, and to wander off someplace unimportant. To remain focused, we need to stay in this vaulted, multi-level dam interior. If we told the legionaries at the intake tower to continue on through the tunnels and enter the dam, we are supported by a horde of legionaries and also great Khans. This makes the fight so much easier. After killing as many as we can on this top level, we can take some stairs down to the bottom level of this vaulted area. And it's simply a matter of killing every NCR trooper we find. After clearing plant number 1, we can explore. At the very bottom, we see that the NCR Hoover Dam engineer Mike Lawson, whom we killed on this level, used this ground floor as a bit of a workshop, and he was messy. We see broken and half-functional terminals all over the place, and his work desk. He had an area cornered off for testing the water quality that came out of Hoover Dam, and that's really all we find here. However, the power plant connects to 3 other areas of the dam. Now, to find General Oliver, we have to navigate all the way through the dam to power plant number 4. But to fully explore everything, we can open one of the doors here that leads to the Hoover Dam offices. We remember this if we sided with the NCR or House, because we had to travel through this portion to complete those quests. After killing a trooper, we arrive in a supply closet closet where we can pick up a bit of scrap, including a weapons repair kit and some cat-eye. This connects to a hallway with a path left or right. We'll go right for now. This leads to a barracks where we don't find any enemies. And then at the very end, we find another barracks, which is also empty. We can loot the footlockers and duffel bags here, but we don't walk away with much. So retracing our steps, we can this time go up the stairs to the next level of the office. Here we find a number of supply rooms. The first room on the left is a bathroom/supply closet. Nothing much here, but periodically we will be attacked by troopers who sneak up behind us. Heading out, we can open a door to the right. This is Colonel Moore's office. I really hoped I would have found her here, but she has long since abandoned the dam. All we find here is a key to the Hoover Dam safe room in her desk. This is the safe room inside the visitor center that we tried to booby trap with C4 in my video on Arizona Killer. However, she's not there. Turning out, we can go down the hallway where we find a split going south, just leads us back to power plant number 1. So turning around, we can take care of another NCR trooper. And go down the hallway and round the corner. To the left, we find a bit of a rec room, tables set out for poker, laid out with booze, a couple of billiard tables, and an old world flag on the wall. Back out and down the hallway, we can open the door to the right, and we arrive at a bit of a chemistry lab. This has a functional terminal. On the terminal, we find 3 entries. The first, initial inventory report. We've begun to take stock of what's left here, but my first impression is not much. The equipment here is in terrible condition and will require extensive repairs to get even minimal power production started. Looks like we've got our work cut out for us, boys. This must be one of Mike Lawson's terminals. In the next one, no clue what these are. Johnson, I've come across a crate with a couple of suits made of a material I don't even recognize. Do you know what the heck this is? Looks like pre-war tech to me. The eggheads we have down here are mostly glorified mechanics, so they just scratched their heads when I showed it to them. And in the next one, great. Just great. Remember those suits I told you about? Gone. Some jerk ordered a complete reorganization of our storage system, and now I can't find anything. Wonderful. I guess they'll turn up sooner or later. So the NCR discovered some sort of pre-war suit, but then lost it? Well, I wonder if we can find it. Moving down the hallway and opening the door to the left, we see that this is the doorway that led to a staircase that brings us topside to one of the towers at the top of the dam. We traveled through here when we sided with House, but this time the door is locked, so we can't go forward. Rounding the corner, we know what's off to the east. We had to go there with House, so we'll bypass that for now. Heading down to the south and rounding the corner, we find a room where either the NCR or pre-war America was storing toxic waste. The rads are pretty strong here. However, in the western corner of this room, we find a bunch of crates, and inside one is a full suit of Chinese stealth armor. This must be the unidentifiable suit that Lawson talked about in the terminal. After we loot it, we get rushed by a trooper. This Chinese stealth armor is visually identical to the suit we get from the Operation Anchorage DLC of Fallout 3. But the suits we find here are the only ones in the entire game of Fallout New Vegas. The only other place we see this suit is in the Old World Blues DLC, in the facility where we found the talking stealth armor. The United States military developed their stealth armor based on this Chinese stealth suit technology. We found the suit in bits and pieces in their labs, but we couldn't interact with it. The Chinese stealth armor has a DT of 12 and grants +5 to sneak. The detachable stealth helmet has a DT of 3, but it gives us no stealth bonus. It's considered a light armor and can be repaired with recon armor. Unlike the version in Fallout 3, this stealth suit does not give us a permanent stealth field when crouching. Its main benefit is the +5 to sneak. Heading out and going down the hallway, we can turn east, and this time we see that unlike during the House version, the control system room is not being guarded by heavy troopers. And without House's quest active in our quest log, this room is useless. We can't interact with anything here. So heading out and continuing east, we find 2 paths, but we can take either as they both end at the same place. Going right first, we find a supply closet with just minor scrap inside. Heading out and continuing down the hallway, we get attacked as we open another door. This door led to a bit of a briefing room. We see a projector on a table and a bunch of chairs arrayed before a screen. And going out the opposite door in this room, we see that it connects to the other hallway that we passed. This hallway leads to a kitchen, a very small kitchen for such a large base. There is a door here, but it's inaccessible. Heading out and turning left, we find another supply room with a whole bunch of boxes, but none of which have anything interesting in them. Heading out, we see that this path turns a corner and meets with the other hallway that we went down earlier. The only room left in here is a supply room that has been blocked off with rubble. This section terminates with a door that requires a key. We recall that in the house ending, this key led to a landing where we could optimize Hoover Dam water efficiency. But that's it for the offices, so with this ending, we have to navigate all the way back to power plant number 1. Another room we can access from power plant number 1 is the Hoover Dam lower level. At the bottom floor of power plant number 1, we find a door that leads to a staircase bringing us down to the lower level. Here, we go down a hallway where we see a split to the left or the right. There's stairs to the left and a catwalk to the right, overlooking some sort of turbine area. Turning around and going down the stairs, we can get rid of an NCR trooper. We see a large machine spinning violently. This is labeled N1. Continuing south, we find another labeled N2, but this is not spinning. There is a doorway in this room, and it leads to a large room with a closed-off pipe. As we round a corner to go up some stairs, we find a trooper and a dog. Them dead, we can continue exploring. The staircase leads back up to that loft level, overlooking these spinning machines. And here we find a door to power plant level O2. But before we go on, this room continues. We find a doorway leading to a cafeteria level with 3 cola machines, and heading out a door, even more NCR troopers. The doorway next to spinning machine N5 leads to another room with a pipe, but the cap on this pipe is removed, and we see water gushing out of the wall. Here we also find a hatch on the ground, which is where the legionary soldiers must have emerged. If we get too close to the water, it knocks us down. After clearing more troopers on this level, we discover that this long strip simply gives us convenient access to all of the other power plant levels. So in effect, this is an easy way to skip right to Oliver. We can enter from power plant 1, travel all the way down, and then scale a staircase to the door to power plant 4. In this way, we skip 2 other power plants. Alternatively, back at power plant 1, the final door we find here is a door to power plant number 2. Power plant number 2 is again a large vaulted area with an identical layout to power plant number 1. The major difference between the 2 power plants is here we find a bunch of NCR veteran rangers. Thankfully, we have the help of many great cons. But before moving on to power plant number 3, if we move to the northeastern side of this floor, we find a door leading to Hoover Dam. We can easily spot this door because it's the only one I saw with a red switch. This brings us back outside, but on the river level. This is the part of the dam we see by peering over the ledge while taking the road from Boulder City towards the dam. But we see that this lower level is heavily fortified with power armor wearing heavy troopers. I quickly realized that my sniper rifle wasn't going to do anything against these guys, so out came Thump Thump. Nearly dead, I can run back up here and use a bunch of stim packs before moving forward to take out the other 2 on the far southern end. and I barely survived that as well. Using a few more stim packs, we can explore. Turning around, we see the dam behind us, and it is gorgeous and imposing from this level. To the west, we see a ramp made of scrap metal that leads to Hoover Dam Power Plant 04. So if we didn't find the door to the lower level in Power Plant 1 and skip all the way to 4, we can at least skip Power Plant 3 by finding the door outside from Power Plant 02, bringing us straight to Power Plant 4. I wanted to explore this quickly before we moved on. This southern walkway is a dead end, but the barricade is broken, so if we want, we can jump into the Colorado, and we don't die. We can swim this. Swimming all the way to the south, we see the river blocked off with a bunch of nets and floating barrels. But we can swim all the way to the Legion side of the Colorado. From here, we can reach the other concrete landing, and looking up, we see water shooting out of pipes above us. There are a number of garage doors, but we can't interact with any of them. I went all the way to the end and I was rather bummed. There's nothing here. It's a cool little place. I'm glad I found it, and it's probably one of the best views of the dam. But really all we find here is a door to Power Plant 2 and a door to Power Plant 4. But I don't want to skip ahead. I want to show you everything, so heading back to Power Plant 2, from here we can take the door to Power Plant 3. Like with the last two, Power Plant 3 has an identical layout.
Put that away!
After clearing Power Plant 3, we move on to the final power plant, Power Plant 4. This is the most difficult power plant battle, as it not only has veteran rangers, but also power armor-wearing heavy troopers. After fighting our way to the very bottom of the power plant and clearing it, we find a huge double door to Oliver's compound.
So you must be the courier the reports mentioned. Pass this message on to your commander. Hoover Dam will not fall while I still draw breath.
That's exactly why I'm here, General Oliver.
Fool. We've fortified this place to hold out indefinitely against an army. What chance do you think you have?
With that, we taunt him and his veteran rangers to attack. There are many ways to goad him into attacking during the course of this conversation, but they all end with the same dialogue from him where he shouts "fool" and attacks, so we'll bypass all of that and instead explore his other options. We can say, "Surrender, General. The dam is almost taken."
This battle is far from over. Once the reinforcements from McCarran arrive, the counteroffensive will begin.
This doesn't have to end in bloodshed, General.
The army of bloodthirsty maniacs with you would disagree. No, I think I'll hold the fort here until our reinforcements arrive.
The Legion has more men on their way as well.
Do you really think your ragtag band of slavers has more manpower than the armed forces of the NCR? I'd pit one of my men against two of your cutthroats any day. Backed by additional troops, we'll mop the floor with your pathetic Legion.
There won't be any reinforcements. The Legion has blocked the road west.
If that's true, then there's nothing else for it. My men and I will hold out as long as we can.
To what end? You delay the inevitable.
Better that than simply give up. What other option is available? Retreat?
There's still time. You could escape. I won't stop you.
And go where? According to you, the road west is blocked. And while you might let us by, I highly doubt your allies will do the same.
we can pass a 50 speech check to say, I'm betting a man as smart as you wouldn't leave himself without at least one contingency.
Perhaps I do have a secret tunnel out of here, but that doesn't change anything. My duty is to stay and fight.
Dying won't accomplish anything.
It will see that our orders are carried through to the end. That's what good soldiers do.
And what about your duty to your men?
My men and I are soldiers. We share an obligation to follow orders, and our orders are to hold this dam.
Then choose, General. Leave now and your men will live. Stay, and you all die.
We choose to stay, though I think we'll all debate you on the dying part.
In which case he and his rangers turn hostile. Thus, the only peaceful option we have at this point is to pass a 100 speech check to say, the dam is already lost, General. Your responsibility now is to get your men out of here alive.
You're right. These men have placed their lives in my hands, and I won't throw them away for a lost cause. Don't expect to hold this place for very long, however. The NCR will be back.
And choosing this option, the General turns tail and runs. Talking him down into fleeing garners unique dialogue from Legate Linnaeus, which we'll explore in a minute. But the most satisfying, and in my opinion the most fun option, is to agree with General Oliver and say, you're right, it is hopeless. I guess you're screwed.
Then let's get this over with.
This goads him into a battle, and force fields appear, protecting the General and his NCR snipers. We immediately come under fire, and we get rushed by NCR troopers with automatic weapons. But I came prepared with Thump Thump.
Had enough?
After killing the troopers, we find a doorway leading to a hallway that shields us from their fire. Rounding the hallway, we see a doorway that leads behind the force field, but we don't see any enemies here. Running up the stairs, we can take cover in one of these rooms. And from behind the doorway, lob grenades at the NCR. Oh! I must have hit a generator that was powering the force field. One, at least, went down. The force field was blocking my path along this ledge. With it gone, I can chase after General Oliver. Sure enough, heading into one of the rooms, we see the generator on fire. But moving forward, we get rushed by more troopers from below. And then from the stairs. With that, this room appears to be clear. The force fields no longer serve a purpose. Oliver and his rangers have fled. We can explore the remaining rooms up here, but we don't see much. Storage rooms, tables, offices, and down below a whole bunch of cubicles. This must be the bureaucratic heart of the NCR in the Mojave. To continue, we need to head up the staircase to the southeast. And it is here where I was so glad that I had Thump Thump. This room is completely booby-trapped. If we round a corner, we see a veteran ranger walk out in front of us. And with one shot, he cripples us and nearly kills us. Even after completely healing myself, when I went around the corner to snipe him, one shot and I was dead. There are two such NCR veteran rangers in this room, and they are both magical. Even if I have 100 sneak, even if I use a stealth boy, even if I use the Chinese stealth armor or a stealth suit from Old World Blues, they know exactly where I am, and they follow my movements. As soon as I peer down one hallway, the ranger emerges. If I strafe to the other side and peer down the next hallway, after a brief moment, he follows me. These guys are programmed to hunt us down, and so there is no hiding. Thankfully, I got lucky. One of the rangers got impatient and tracked me down to this side. At the same time, a Great Khan warrior came up to distract the ranger. I was then able to kill him with Thump Thump. But that leaves one remaining. I tried to use my grenade rifle to lob grenades over the cubicle walls, and I was partially successful. I was able to whittle his life down, but it was the booby traps amongst all of these cubicles that continued to get me. This ended up being the longest single fight I've ever had in Fallout New Vegas, and I died time after time after time. But at last, I finally succeeded by using VATS. I know, I should have been using VATS from the beginning. Oh well, at least he's dead. On his body, we find an anti-material rifle. No wonder he was one-shotting me. But then... oh, for Pete's sake! Oh, thankfully, I had saved right after killing this guy. And I see where I went wrong. The stairway is covered in mines. We can go ahead and get rid of those. 2 Rangers are dead, but we have no idea how many remain. Heading up the stairs, we arrive in another office complex. The doors at the end of the hallway open up, and we are attacked by General Oliver and 2 NCR heavy troopers. After that defeat, I tried to be smarter about this. I picked up their own mines at the foot of the stairs instead of detonating them, went up the stairs, and began dropping them in the hallway. Then I dropped them down the stairs, all the way to the very bottom. It was here that I waited for them with Thump Thump. And it works.
Anybody there? Oh shit!
I've got you now.
1 heavy trooper down. A veteran ranger down. The 2nd heavy trooper down. I don't know what happened to General Oliver. And then while I'm looting the bodies, one catches me by surprise. Heading upstairs, according to my Pip-Boy compass, there is still 1 enemy remaining. I looked for him, scouring each of these rooms and picking up a heavy incinerator along the way. We don't find any good loot in any of these rooms. We find office room after office room, one of which is a storage room, another one filled with shelves. We eventually find the NCR strategy table, a long oval table with the map of Hoover Dam on it. Hard to imagine all of the NCR's plans being conceived in this one room. After exploring a few more bathrooms, a bunk room, another office, a kitchen, and a storage room with a bunch of empty footlockers, we can go into the room with the big double doors, and this appears to be General Oliver's personal bedroom. But it's a Spartan little room with 1 bed and a desk. After playing games for too long with this guy, I finally found him in an NCR supply room. And the flamer doesn't even touch this guy. But thankfully, Thump Thump worked wonders. With that, we kill all of them. But where was General Oliver? Did we kill him? I spent some time wading through the carnage, and I finally found him. Down 1 level, I found his foot in one of the cubicles. I must have killed him when I lured them down with my frag mines. And then we find his body in the adjoining cubicle. On his corpse, we find his unique outfit, Oliver's uniform and cap. I covered its stats in episode 8 of this series, The Terror of the East, when we killed him and looted his corpse during the house ending. When done, we can carefully leave Oliver's compound, making sure we don't trip any more booby traps that may be active, and exit out the big double doors back out into power plant number 4. If we allow General Oliver to leave, Legate Lanius greets us here and says,
Judging by the lack of blood, I take it the coward Oliver fled rather than face me. No matter.
But if we killed Oliver, Legate Lanius says,
This slaughter pleases me. No act is more sacred than consecrating a site in the blood of one's enemies. The rest of the dam is fully under our control. A few pitiful holdouts remain, but their time is short. The general was the last source of concern. With their commander dead, the NCR will pull out of this region, allowing our conquest to continue westward unopposed for a time. The Legion will swell with the number of slaves we will claim from this place, and the tribute we gather will fund further campaigns. Perhaps in time I will be granted the honor of conquering the land known as California. But for now we rest. Know that your efforts are appreciated and will not go unrewarded. But we can speak of that later. For now, come. We must see to the burning of the dead.
And with that, the game ends. We now get to see the Legion endgame slides. I'm not going to show you all of the endgame slides right now. That would be an hour-long video in and of itself. But like I did with the house ending, I'll play all of the Caesar's Legion ending slides, and all of their variations.
And so the courier who had cheated death in the cemetery outside Goodsprings cheated death once again, and the Mojave Wasteland was forever changed.
If Caesar died...
The legate is crowned as the new Caesar. He entered the Strip as though it was a military target, destroying anyone who resisted him. The Legion brutally occupied all major locations, killing and enslaving a large amount of the population. Under the Legion's banner, civilization, savage as it was, finally came to the Mojave Wasteland.
But if he lived...
Caesar entered the Strip as though it was his triumph. The Legion pushed the NCR out of New Vegas entirely, driving them back to the Mojave outpost. The Legion occupied all major locations, enslaving much of the population and peacefully lording over the rest. Under the Legion's banner, civilization, unforgiving as it was, finally came to the Mojave Wasteland.
The courier's ending is the same, whether Caesar is alive or not. The only variation is his or her karma level, and all that changes is the ending slide we see. With a good courier...
Though the courier himself was just and forthright in his dealings throughout the wasteland, he helped the Legion achieve victory.
A neutral courier...
The courier, a mercenary at heart, helped the Legion achieve victory at Hoover Dam.
A bad courier...
The Legion marched over the Hoover Dam with the help of one who was as brutal and merciless as the worst of them. The courier.
And then, with either Caesar dead or alive, the following remains the same.
Caesar honored her with a golden coin, minted in celebration of her contributions and distributed throughout the wasteland.
If we kill the Boomers' leadership...
Without organized leadership, the remaining Boomers slowly drifted away, leaving Nellis Air Force Base to be flooded by prospectors and scavengers. All of the Boomers' accumulated knowledge quickly scattered, and their existence slowly faded from memory.
If we never finished the Boomers' quests...
The Boomers defended themselves against many attacks from the Legion, but they eventually fell to the Legion's superior numbers. The Legion enslaved the Boomers and erased any memory from their existence from the wasteland.
Or if we did complete the Boomers' quests...
Cautious after the Boomers' display of power at Hoover Dam, Caesar chose to leave the Boomers alone. The Boomers remained isolated, but have been seen flying over the Mojave Desert from time to time.
If, as Caesar commanded, we destroyed the Hidden Valley Bunker.
Buried beneath tons of rubble, the Mojave chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel was no more. Those few who were outside the Hidden Valley Bunker when it was destroyed settled into new lives, or headed west to find a new chapter to join.
Alternatively, if instead of destroying the bunker, we just killed all of the Brotherhood of Steel we found there...
During the fight for Hoover Dam, the Brotherhood took Helios 1, inflicting heavy damage on retreating NCR forces, but it was a Pyrrhic victory. Once the Strip was secured, Caesar's forces overwhelmed and eventually routed the Brotherhood from Helios 1 and Hidden Valley.
If we never killed the leaders of the Fiends...
The Fiends attacked Camp McCarran during the Second Battle of Hoover Dam and suffered heavy losses. Caesar, unimpressed with their performance and their dependence on chems, had them exterminated.
If Caesar dies...
After the Legion's victory, the new Caesar learned the followers had defamed the original Caesar's noble origins. The followers of the Apocalypse were hunted down and exterminated. An old Mormon fort was turned into a pile of rubble.
If Caesar lives...
After the Legion's victory, Caesar, out of a strange respect for his old fellows, allowed the followers safe passage out of the wasteland. Reluctantly, the followers accepted the offer and abandoned Old Mormon Fort to the Legion.
If we sold Arcade Gannon into slavery to Caesar...
Tricked by the courier and imprisoned by the Legion, Arcade remained Caesar's personal physician for several years. Caesar grew fond of speaking with such an educated man on philosophical matters. Arcade became his unwilling intellectual sparring partner. After years of such servitude, during an unguarded moment, Arcade used a surgical scalpel in his bare hands to disembowel himself. Lacking any other skilled medical personnel, the Legion was unable to prevent his death. Caesar mourned his loss for months.
If we first killed Caesar, but then sold Arcade Gannon into slavery to Lucius...
Though the Legion was victorious at Hoover Dam, the legate did not have the same medical needs as Caesar. Lennius quickly tired of Arcade's acerbic wit and had the doctor crucified.
If we completed the quests in Goodsprings...
The Legion, preoccupied with its acquisition of New Vegas, scarcely took notice of the town of Goodsprings. Many locals moved on, fearful of Caesar's long shadow. Only the old and the stubborn remained.
If we found Cass and took her on as a companion...
Cass lived to see the mark of the Legion on Hoover Dam. Uncertain of what lay next for the West, she remained silent. As the Legion marched west, she found it difficult to see the dam as anything more than a gravestone for the Mojave, and everyone in it.
If we never convinced Papa Khan to break his allegiance with Caesar's Legion...
As reward for their loyal service, Caesar forcibly integrated the great Khans into the Legion. The sick and elderly were killed. The women sold as wives to ranking officers, and the tribe's identity was annihilated. Though many great Khans mourned the death of their tribe, many more were ultimately satisfied with their revenge against NCR.
But if we did convince them to break off their allegiance with Caesar's Legion, and instead to ally with the NCR...
For supporting the NCR, the great Khans were ruthlessly hunted down by the victorious Legion. Caesar destroyed all evidence of their existence at Red Rock Canyon, and forbade mention of their name in any history. The great Khan's legacy was swiftly forgotten.
If we convinced the kings to ally with the NCR...
After their victory at Hoover Dam, the Legion quickly set about destroying all remaining resistance, including any groups with ties to the NCR. Upon discovering the King's newfound relationship with the NCR, Legionnaires flooded the streets of Freeside, and the Kings were quickly destroyed.
If we convinced the kings to engage in violent hostilities with the NCR...
Impressed with the King's continued attacks upon NCR citizens and soldiers, the Legion offered them the option of being assimilated into the Legion. The Kings refused and briefly became slaves in the Legion, but after a failed escape attempt, they were all put to death.
Or if we never completed the King's quests...
After their victory at Hoover Dam, Legion troops rolled through Freeside. The Kings tried to fight back, but most were killed, and the rest fled into the wasteland.
If we completed Jason Bright's quest, and we allowed them to successfully launch themselves into space...
During the Legion's attack on Novak, Bright followers returning from their long pilgrimage assisted in its evacuation. Though Novak eventually fell to the Legion, many citizens of Novak were able to escape, alive and intact.
If we helped the NCR Misfits become a well-oiled fighting machine...
Though Camp Golf fell to Caesar, the Misfits distinguished themselves during the Legion's attack. Mags and her soldiers were posthumously recognized for their valor by NCR.
However, if we followed the poor advice from some of their members and allowed them to remain lazy...
The Misfits' laziness caught up with them when the Legion attacked Camp Golf. Those who weren't killed in the attack attempted to flee, but were caught at Mojave Outpost, court-martialed, and hanged from the Ranger Monument.
If we completed Boone's personal quest and convinced him to let go of his vengeance...
Boone refused to take the Legion's victory lying down. Heading to the hills with his rifle, he began a deadly campaign against high-ranking Legion officers. And though the price on his head rose to levels unheard of, few pursued it. fearing it would be the last thing they'd never see.
If, however, we completed Boone's personal quest, but convinced him to embrace revenge.
Driven mad by Caesar's victory at Hoover Dam and unable to escape his memories, Boone staged a suicide mission against the legate. Fighting as he wished he would have fought on the day of his wife's death, he brought down scores of legionaries before being caught. Before his crucifixion, he was brought before the legate, who expressed his admiration for Boone's reckless abandon. Boone spat tobacco in his eye, for all of Caesar's armies to see.
If we never killed Eddie at the NCR Correctional Facility,
most powder gangers at the correctional facility fled into the wasteland rather than face the advancing forces of the Legion. Those brave or foolish to remain were killed or crucified by the merciless legionaries.
if we convinced the NCR to support Prim...
Despite NCR's pledge to support Prim, they abandoned the town after their loss to Caesar. Though Caesar keeps Prim open for business, its citizens live under the constant watch of Legion soldiers.
If instead we put Sheriff Myers in charge of Prim...
Hot-headed to the end, Sheriff Myers chooses to oppose Caesar's takeover of Prim with a standoff. Though the citizens take out a few legionaries, the town quickly falls to Caesar, its citizens utterly wiped out.
Or if we put Prim Slim in charge of Prim...
Not understanding the gravity of the Legion's imminent takeover of Prim, Sheriff Prim Slim valiantly attempts to resist Caesar's will.
If we chose to not expose the sabotage of Chief Hanlon...
During the attack on Hoover Dam, Chief Hanlon and his rangers threw themselves into the path of the Legion assault, dying to the last man and woman. In the aftermath that followed in the NCR, bitter citizens and opportunistic senators were quick to denounce President Kimball and General Oliver. Hanlon and his fallen rangers were revered for their bravery and sacrifice.
Or if we insisted that Hanlon be brought to justice and instead he commits suicide...
With Caesar's victory came a small measure of vindication for the Rangers' late Chief Hanlon. Upon the military's return, debate raged within NCR's Senate about who was to blame for the loss of Hoover Dam. Though some in NCR regarded Hanlon as a traitor, many believed he was the only military commander who saw the futility in defending New Vegas.
If we convince Hanlon to stop his sabotage and we allow Kaiser to live...
Due to the courier's intervention, Chief Hanlon abandoned his plan to sabotage the defense of Hoover Dam. The Rangers heroically assisted NCR's troopers in their ill-fated defense against the overwhelming power of Caesar's Legion. Though many NCR military officers fled the territory soon after the dam was lost, Chief Hanlon remained at Camp Gulf to surrender to the Legion. Out of respect for Hanlon's composure and worth as an adversary, Caesar had him beheaded.
But if we convince Hanlon to stop his sabotage and Kaiser dies...
Despite the late Caesar's respect for Chief Hanlon as an adversary, Legate Lanius had Hanlon crucified, along with all the other Rangers.
If we convince the Enclave remnants to support the Legion and Kaiser is alive...
Merciless in their assault on the NCR, the remnants struck fear into the hearts of even the Centurions at Hoover Dam. Well aware of the full extent of their power, Kaiser commanded his troops to not pursue them.
But if we convince the remnants to support the Legion and Kaiser is dead...
Kaiser's heirs aggressively pursued the remnants into Arizona, losing hundreds of legionaries in the process, and gaining nothing in return.
And so the courier's road came to an end, for now. In the new world of the Mojave Wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes.
And with that, we finish the full story of Fallout New Vegas from the Legion's perspective. But this is only one of 4 endings. We have fully explored 2. We have 2 more to go. In our next series, we will go back in time to the point where we confronted Benny at the Tops Casino and choose either to support the NCR or to work with Yes Man for an independent New Vegas. If you want to make sure you don't miss that series, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. What are your thoughts about the Legion's story? I walk away with plenty of strong opinions about the Legion, but I'm gonna save those opinions for a dedicated video that I'll publish later. Still, I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments section below. I am moving house today and all this week, which is going to disrupt my video production schedule. Bear that in mind for the rest of this week. Never fear, as soon as I finish my move, I'll be back to work producing more Fallout content. I have a brand new shirt in the shop. The Profligate's days are numbered. The shirt comes in a variety of both men's and women's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. My designs come on other stuff as well, smartphone cases, pillows, posters, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video, and in particular, thanks to each and every one of you who's been following this series about the story of New Vegas from the very beginning. It's a whole lot of content to watch. It takes a dedicated fan, and I'm so grateful that you're here watching with me. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon this week with a brand new video.